more so than the average cat. A heavy dew on the lawn in the backyard would make him hold up a paw and give me his best pathetic look in a calculated scheme to get me to carry him, which most of the time I did. The first week of April had been rainy in Mayville Heights, and there were only a few patches of snow left on the grass behind the house, but the ground was still soggy, which meant that for the last week I'd been carrying Hercules through our yard into Rebecca's, so he could have coffee with Everett Henderson, Rebecca's new husband. Everett had funded the renovations to the Mayville Heights Free Public Library for its centennial, and had hired me to oversee everything as head librarian. In 18 months, I'd fallen in love with the town, and when Everett offered me a permanent job, I'd said yes. When I got out of the shower, Hercules was gone. I dressed, dried my hair, and went downstairs to see what returning salvo Owen was going to fire in this little war. Owen was in the kitchen, sitting next to the refrigerator, the picture of innocence, with a little smug thrown in. The headless body of Fred the Funky Chicken was dumped in his bowl. Why wasn't he yowling his frustration at me, or prowling around the house looking for his brother? I leaned over to stroke the top of his gray head. "You're taking this very well," I said, narrowing my eyes at him. "Don't think I don't know you're up to something." He gave me his best, "Who, me?" which didn't fool me for a minute. I started the coffee, put my bowl of oatmeal in the microwave, and then got the cat's breakfast. Hercules appeared in the living room doorway. He looked warily toward Owen. The small gray tabby already had his head bent over his bowl. Herc started for his dish, moving slowly, his eyes locked on his brother. Owen gave no sign that he was interested. In fact, he shifted his body sideways a bit so Hercules was out of his line of sight. I gave a sigh of relief. Maybe Owen didn't care about the decapitated chicken. Maybe he'd finally had his fill of them. Maybe he had no retaliation planned. Maybe, by now, I'd know better. Owen shifted again. I saw a flash of gray paw. Then his water dish upended, and a puddle of water spread across the floor, in front of Hercules's food bowl. Owen shook his foot and continued to eat. Damp feet were not an issue for him. Hercules howled in anger. Then he looked at me. I shook my head. "You knew when you went all Ozzy Osbourne on the chicken that it would be a declaration of war as far as Owen is concerned." I reached for the coffee pot. "I'm staying out of it." Hercules's green eyes narrowed to 2 slits. He moved around the pool of water, looking for some way to get to his dish. There wasn't one. Somehow, Owen had managed to tip his water bowl in just the right spot so that Hercules's breakfast was marooned. Had he planned it that way? Was he capable of planning it? Oh, yes. Hercules made a noise that sounded a lot like a sigh. The only indication Owen gave that he'd heard anything was a slight twitch of his left ear. Herc dipped his head and sniffed the floor. It was clean. I'd scrubbed it on my hands and knees with a scrub brush just the night before, my way of working off a frustrating day at the library. The cat's pink tongue darted out and he began to lap at the water. Owen's head came up. "Touché," I said, holding up my coffee cup. He made a grumbling sound low in his throat. I didn't need to speak cat to know that he was probably telling me where I could go. I ate my oatmeal while Hercules lapped his way to his dish. As soon as he could reach, he stretched out one white-tipped paw and pulled the bowl closer. He made a dramatic show of shaking both paws before bending his head to eat. Owen had finished breakfast by then. He made an equally dramatic exit, picking up the remains of the yellow catnip chicken and making a wide circle around his brother before disappearing, literally, into the living room. I finished breakfast and cleaned up the kitchen. By then, Hercules had eaten his breakfast. He started a meticulous face-washing routine while I wiped up the last of the spilled water. I moved